All right, click on go live whenever you want.
All right. All right. I think we're live. Yep, we're live.
Hello, everyone. We are so back, and today we're gonna
We're
be
so back once
talking.
again.
Yeah, we're talking about Life of Chuck, the newest Mike
Oh yeah.
Flanagan movie, as we are very big Mike Flanagan fans.
Yeah, this is really weird because I just saw Weapons, not the web no, War of the Worlds. I mixed it up with Weapons because Weapons was actually a good movie and my brain is trying to forcefully forget about War of the Worlds. Um because we watched it like a couple of days ago. Actually, no, yesterday actually. And then immediately after, I watched the Predator, the Shane Black Predator movie. And I don't know why I did that. I watched like two really bad movies in a row. So now coming to talk about Mike Flanagan is like tonal whiplash for me. But yeah, I guess I'll go first, talking about my experience with the movie. Unless you want to go first.
Yeah. I it's interesting. I love this movie. Mike Flanagan. We throughout like what the last year, right? We've been um watching all of the Mike Flanagan things. We finished a couple months ago his filmography. We watched every single movie, every single show. Obviously, I had already seen most of them when we started. I was showing them to Rob though. Um,
Oh yeah, I'd only seen my only previous experience with Mike Flanagan had been Hush, the
mm,
Hush movie.
yeah,
Other than that, I had known nothing about Mike Flanagan. I literally didn't even know about the miniseries he did. Like apparently Hill House was really popular, and I just never heard of it, despite of being a really big horror fan. So the past like I don't know few months, actually more like a year. The past year, we've been watching through Mike Flanagan's
yeah.
filmography,
We finished a
and
few months ago. It took us around a year, and I mean,
oh yeah,
I hope you loved it because otherwise we spent a long time watching stuff you didn't like. But I'm pretty sure you liked
oh yeah,
it.
oh yeah, I loved it. I think the only things that we didn't watch from Mike Flanagan's was like his really early stuff,
Well, it
but
was
it's
like
kind
his
of
student
lost to media
films.
now.
Yeah, we can't find them anywhere.
Yeah, I've literally spent like the past few months, like I'm still searching for them now, scouring because I feel like if I found them, it would make for a very interesting video talking about Mike Flanagan's early work. Um, but I haven't found any of his like earlier stuff. The only one that I have access to, or we had access to, was Absentia, and Absentia was I mean, from what we experienced, it's a very basic indie film. I feel like it's very clearly an indie studio project, and it's not meant to be taken it's not meant to be seen any further than that.
Yeah, I mean, it has some
But
really interesting ideas, but it is very like you can tell
yeah,
the
you can
budget.
tell. Oh yeah, you can tell the budget was like $10 on a shoestring,
Yeah,
and it still looks better than War of the Worlds, which is fucking crazy to me.
yeah,
Um, but I watched but yeah, so now his most recent film, Life of Chuck, came out pretty recently, and I saw it in theaters. I was wanting to see it a lot earlier than that, but unfortunately, uh, apparently the film was only touring in America for a while, and then for some reason it aired in New Zealand once it came out like a couple months later. I hate when films do that for some reason. They just like instead of airing in every single country, they just air in one country at a time for a couple months. I don't
yeah,
know why they do that. But
yeah. Movies that don't have international, worldwide releases is very annoying. It's still not even close to coming. I mean, kind of close. I think it's the end of this month that it's gonna come to Brazil in in
Yeah.
theaters, but
It's
I
still not out for
I
you,
watched
is it?
it. Yeah, no, it's I think August 30th. So I watched
Jesus Christ.
on digital because I couldn't wait. The day it was out on digital, I got it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this. Um, and I did,
Yeah,
and I loved it.
that's actually kind of crazy to me because I watched this in theaters very late because I was wanting to get to it as fast as I could. And it's definitely a film that is meant to be experienced on the big screen. It's not meant to be a film that uh you watch digitally. I mean, you can if you want to, but it's definitely one of those films that if you experience it in theaters, you are getting the best experience. Um, but I think it's also probably the most hopeful out of all of his other media that we've covered.
I think Mike
I
has
mean,
like a very hopeful tone to everything he makes. It is very interesting. Some people don't like the Hill House finale, and I guess mild spoilers for some of it. His other stuff will try to steer from it, but like, I don't know. I think
yeah,
it's kind of interesting to talk about like the larger, like the through line between his other movies and shows and this. But like, for example, the ending of Hill House is like very happy, and the original ending was very tragic. Which makes sense. The ending of the book is fairly tragic, but he makes it so like most of them, you know, have a happy ending,
yeah.
other than and that isn't a spoiler, but like the Nelly, and so like people who said like, oh, this is like weird and unrealistic or whatever, like to be so happy, but I feel like he's always like using horror as like a vehicle for like exploring trauma in a way where like people learn and move on from it rather than just like be consumed by it, which is like what a lot of like postmodern horror does. um
Oh yeah,
I don't know, it like when you see like Midnight Mass, it is like the ending is tragic, but it is very hopeful. It's still like
yeah.
showing like the beauty of life in a way, of why
I would say
it's worth living or something. I don't know.
I would say that Midnight Mass is probably his most like quote unquote tragic ending,
Yeah.
even though Mike Flanagan's work always has like a hopeful note to it at the end. I would say Life of Chuck is different in the fact that it is consistently hopeful rather than, it starts off quite miserable
I don't know. The
and
first act
ends.
is like very like it's full of
I
dread.
guess
You
the
see
first
the universe being destroyed. Like
I guess second and third act, it's a lot more hopeful. First act, I mean, it ends with him dying, but I mean, that is kind of the point. It gets the dread out of the way, so it can be a lot more hopeful. I think there is I think this movie came out at the right time, despite the film unfortunately being overshadowed by a lot of other films like Superman and all that other stuff. But I mean, that's kind of to be expected because it is a lesser known Stephen King novel, and it wasn't, heavily marketed as much.
yeah.
I don't even
Yeah, it's a short
think,
story. It's not even like a full book by Stephen King.
yeah, no. I quickly read a summary on the book, and it's basically the same. Like it's basically the same story that they tell, just like a few minor changes, like
Uh-huh.
especially in terms of structure. I think I think the book is structured different than the movie. Um, from what I've seen of Mike Flanagan's interviews, he's talked about structuring it a lot more differently, uh, to fit it into a movie, which I found to be quite interesting. I might give the book a read afterwards, although I'm not like the biggest fan of Stephen King's writing style.
Uh-huh. I
Um,
did start reading it, the novel. Genuinely, it is very. Mike Flanagan likes to do that, where he gets a lot of the voiceovers of the books he's adapting to be like said verbatim in his shows, like with Hill House. Like silently, steadily, in the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there, walked alone. Like that is like a iconic line from that show, and it's brought straight from the book. Uh, Same
yeah,
from a lot of other lines. Um, and so there is a like the introduction, like the opening scene with Chiwetel Ejiofor. I forgot the character's name, but saying the
Mm.
actor. He with him in the school and everything, that's all like added to the film. The movie starts at the point where the narration starts, like saying like, oh, he saw the first ad for Chuck in the you know when he was driving around whatever street. So I assume he added a bit to like a bit of fluff, like to make the story more, film worthy, because otherwise it'd be like a short film. And do think it
Oh
fits
yeah.
like the film format really well. And I mean, it's not even a long film; it's 2 hours. I do sometimes because I watched the film twice, and both times I kind of felt like the third act could have been cut shorter. Well, it's called Act
Well,
One in the
the third act
movie.
is the longest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think maybe it could have, but at the same time, I don't think there's anything I would cut. It's just that because
Yeah,
it is the
no, it's
longest, it's a little weird, like, because, especially because Act 2 is so short. I don't know.
oh yeah. Act 1 is like
Yeah.
20 minutes long, I think.
It might just
Maybe
be a
30.
mental thing, to be fair, right? Where I'm like
It
watching
is
it and
mostly
I'm like, oh, because there is an act break like in the chapter titles, like within the movie, it feels structured weirdly. But like if you look at it as a story of like 3 acts without like if you ignore the act breaks in the movie, it probably works fine. It's probably just a mental thing. Because I know the second act in movies is supposed to be the longest, so it just feels weird. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
That's like the only criticism I
I'm
could think of the movies, that the structuring is a little weird, but even then I wouldn't say it's bad.
Yeah, and even then I understand why he structured it like that because I think from what I've heard the book is structured in a very similar way. But also at the same time it's like, in terms of where things are placed, it's a little different in the book compared to the film. Uh but for the most part the structuring does remain the same. I think that the third act is probably one of my favorite acts, but at the same time it is the longest and you do kind of feel that length later on. The best act of course is act 2 where it's just literally it might as well just be a 10-20 minute long dance sequence because
Yeah.
that's literally what it is.
I mean, it's
I
it's
think
what's interesting because in the prelude in the Life of Chuck book, Stephen King is like he wrote just Act 3, just the story of like the universe dying as a person dies, and that was the entire idea of the story. And then he had the idea of Act 2 when he was just like thinking, what if a business guy stops and dances, because he passed by some busker drumming person in the street. It was like, wait, imagine a business guy stops and starts dancing, and then he put it in the same story, and then Act 1 was just like a way to tie those two together. And it
oh
kind
yeah.
of makes sense, because if you take Act 3, which is the first like what hour of the movie, maybe less, 40 minutes, um into a short film, it works perfectly. If you take Act 2 into a short film, it also works perfectly. And using Act 1, which is the final act, I love how confusing this is, to tie it all together, I think
Oh
is
yeah,
just
it's so
like a
weird talking about this
really
movie.
a really interesting like creative choice. Which did seem to come from Stephen King more so than just Mike Flanagan. Obviously, Mike Flanagan adapted it well, but I do find it very cool. Just that idea of like, you take which is what I want to talk whenever I get around to making my video about this movie, but like you take the existential dread of like how someone dying means that like the entire universe, everything they perceive, the way they perceive the world is going to die with them. It's all being, destroyed, and they use it
Oh
like
yeah.
with like brain cancer as a way of making it even like more tragic, because like their perception of the world slowly erodes, and then they forget everything of who they are and what the world is and how everything works, and just have phantoms of it, which is why everything that we see in Act 1 in that universe is like part of Chuck's life, as he was growing up as a child and everything. Like his teachers in school, like they all come back. That story in Act 3,
Oh yeah.
because it's all like inside his brain. It's his brain using the few memories it still has and creating a story, creating a universe, even though it isn't real. Which I find a really interesting way to like
Oh
depict
yeah.
like a
It,
death of someone's death. And you have that dread,
yeah.
and then you mix it with Act Two, which is like the hopefulness of like what makes life worth living is experiencing these things to the fullest. And then I think you have like a fantastic movie that talks about like the what I like to call the hopeful nihilism, which is the kind of thing of like everything ever all at once does, you know, of like nothing matters, so you find your own meaning.
But at the same time, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing matters, but at the same time, everything kind of matters because you find your own meaning in life.
exactly.
And I, I really like how every single detail from Act 3, which is technically Act 1 because Mike Flanagan likes to be confusing, um, is brought back into the first act where, you know, like things like I mentioned this to you last night, but like things like his grandmother's telephone is the telephone that Karen Gillan's character uses, and from what I think Mark Hamill's like you know, I think his name's Zadie. Oh, I keep
It's his
forgetting the names
nickname.
of
Yeah,
these
it's
guys.
his nickname that Chuck
Yeah,
calls him.
Zadie's car is like
Yeah, it's just a way to calling a grandpa. I forgot his actual name. Is it Arthur?
I
It
was
might be
really
Arthur.
Yeah, it might have been Arthur.
I don't
It
know.
does sound like a very Mark Hamill character name,
Yeah.
to have Arthur, but I was also really happy to see how many like well-known actors were in this movie. Like I actually had no I was actually so surprised to see the like some of these actors reappear throughout the movie. Like
I
for
mean, I kind
example,
of love Mike Flanagan because he's always reusing all of his actors. Like,
oh yeah.
I think Samantha Sloyan has been in like 95% of his movies. And he's just like, "Do you want to play a
Oh yeah.
lesbian like dance teacher?" And she was like, "Fuck yeah." And I fucking love her for it. It was fucking amazing. I love it.
I love how he puts his wife in literally like everything.
Oh
He
yeah.
like
I mean,
ever since.
they met they met, and when they were working together with like Absentia, right? And then they just kept
Oh
they
yeah.
started dating. They got married I think right after Hush. And so it's like they've done everything together. Like, and Kate Siegel is an amazing actress. I think other
Oh yeah.
directors are missing out by not casting her because she is amazing. But at the same time, I love that she's always available for Mike Flanagan projects.
It's really cute how he keeps putting his wife in everything. Like even if it's just for a small cameo, he still manages to put her in literally
Yeah.
everything, and I find that to be like the cutest thing ever. Because that kind of is just relationship goals in a way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Uh, but I also love some of the new actors because I Matthew Lillard, I don't think has been in a Mike Flanagan project
No,
before,
yeah, this is his
and
first.
a lot of people recognize him only from Scooby Doo. But since I've been watching a lot of Twin Peaks recently, I recognize him from that. I'm like, hey, it's that one guy from Twin Peaks.
Hmm.
Which I find really funny because like most of the projects I've been watching recently have featured Matthew Lillard in them. Um, one wonderful actor.
Yeah. I mean, he
I
gets
love his
like an
acting ability.
amazing monologue, and that talks just like about the
Oh
whole
yeah,
existential dread of the world ending. Um,
I, I
I don't
I
know.
love it. He's like this like plumber, like electrician guy, and he like starts talking
Maintenance
about the
guy,
way of the
yeah.
world, and it's yeah, yeah, and he like starts talking about the way of the world, and it's such an interesting way. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, Mark.
I mean,
The
it's what's
best thing
interesting
about Mike
because he
Flanagan is just like
says
his monologue.
but it's the interesting thing, he says a lot of the things that Zadie says, right? That's kind of the thing because like all
Mm.
those characters are like repeating things that Chuck has heard his life, but
Oh
of
yeah,
the like, you know, we're already dead. We're just waiting for it to happen. And he says like the waiting is the worst part. He says that, which is the same as
yeah,
you know, obviously Zadie saying that when he talks about the cupola where he goes and he sees people's deaths and he just knows they're coming and he has to wait for it. It's not the kind of thing of like knowing being able to prevent it. He just knows. It's very
oh yeah.
very 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 interesting. I mean, I fucking love it because I think they're using like the viewing someone's death before it happens as like a way of just like, because like he has two deaths that he sees other than his own, right? It's the kid who gets hit by the car, which very preventable if you just don't let them wander into the street when they're playing and everything, and
Yeah.
the the Zadie's friend hanging himself after his wife leaves him, which again it feels very just like, okay, it's very preventable. And he was like, for I think 5 years that it took between the wife leaving and him killing himself, or him seeing it and the him killing himself. I feel like the entire point of the couple is to show like, it's like to represent like metaphorically the way people um the way people like feel like they can prevent certain things, like prevent death in a way, but they kind of fail to do so. Like, yeah, he could have prevented it, he could have saved his friend from killing himself, but it's not his fault, but at the same time he thinks he is. It's like that dread of like
Yeah.
seeing someone like going down a path that like is destructive, but at the same time you can't really stop it. It is their own thing, like their own, you know their own choices.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is the same of
It's
like,
that thing of like
sorry, go on.
you can't save. Oh yeah, sorry. It's that thing of like you can't save someone unless they want to be saved.
Yeah, and
Because they will
it's
just,
why I like the Chuck at the end saying like, it can't, and I won't, uh I won't allow it to be. Oh, I forgot the exact line, but yeah, of him being like,
yeah,
I'm like that person he sees, like it could be him dying young, it could be him dying old, but he's not going to allow it to like haunt every moment of his life because it isn't preventable. So he's just going to allow himself to enjoy life because he's wonderful when he deserves to be wonderful. um and it adds a
yeah,
whole, the whole meaning of I contain multitudes, which is just brilliant and beautiful.
yeah. That theme of I contain multitudes, which I think
Yeah.
is such a wonderful way of looking at
Yeah.
life. That an entire person is essentially just one entire universe. Like they contain an entire universe of knowledge and contradictions and human emotions and experiences in just one singular universe. That is such a beautiful way of looking at like you said, I think it's more hopeful than like Superman is, which is basically leading like the hopium movement at the moment.
I
I think
think
came out
Life of
at the
Chuck
best
is
time as well.
more existentially hopeful in the sense of like finding your place in the universe, whereas Superman is just hopeful and like this day to day, like
Oh yeah, it's
everyone
just
doing
pure
their
hope.
best chance. Yeah, their best. I guess
It
I don't know.
came out at the best time as well though, because it is just like at the moment we are seeing a rise in like hopeful movies. Because we have like Superman, we have actually what are other movies that have come out recently that are very hopeful? Um,
I mean,
I guess
people said
Thunderbolts is
Fantastic
another one.
Four is fairly hopeful.
It is kind of hopeful. I wouldn't say it's like the most hopeful thing ever. Um, I'd like to think that in a way, 28 years later is a little hopeful. In the way of like the
It
Memento
is in a
Amori
yeah,
message.
yeah. It is in
Like
a way of yeah.
yeah, it is I guess making the best out of like a terrible situation. Like the death shouldn't be looked at as like a terrible thing. It should be looked at as not only a necessary experience, but something that can be extremely beautiful. And I think that it's great that we're seeing that because it is definitely a thing after like years of really dark and edgy shit.
Yeah.
Have we now just naturally come to the point of seeing very hopeful movies come back into the rise again?
Mm.
It is. I mean, I won't lie. It is partly because of the world being in a really bad place at the moment, and you know people in marketing being like, well, we need to make something more hopeful, otherwise people are going to be depressed. But
It's
I
a very
I
interesting
still
way
like.
to see like the decline. I mean, I've talked about this in 2 videos already, but it's the way that like after especially 9/11 things got very like postmodern, like everything sucks. There is no God and everything, and things are kind of swinging back into like the more hopeful side while still having like the postmodern like you know critique of the world that doesn't see it as like this beautiful thing. Is like it is messy and shitty and it sucks, but at the same time it sucks in a good way. Like life in general,
Yeah.
it's a very interesting way that art is swinging. I mean, obviously, we talk mostly about movies and TV shows. I don't know exactly, you know other artistic means are saying about stuff like this, but it's just interesting to think about. And I do think it comes at a time where it's like you can see a lot of hope in media, like I said with Everything Ever All at Once is like that kind of movie. Um that i mean that I would just classify as meta modernist. And it's just very, I don't know, it's just a very like a warm blanket of a movie, even though it has like the existential dread of like the world is ending, which is I find just like impressive that Mike managed
Oh
to
yeah.
get both of them in the same movie, like both of those like opposite feelings basically. A feeling
Oh
comforted
yeah.
in a
It's
world that is like ending and destroying itself, and a universe that dies, like everything dies. Like that's, I
well,
don't
yeah.
know.
Somehow he turned that into a very beautiful thing. It's not something that's really sad. It's more. It should be. It's kind of a celebration in a way. Like death is a celebration. It does come back to that thing of a memento mori, memento amori, which I definitely think is what kind of inspired Stephen King to write the book. Again, I haven't read Life of Chuck, and I probably will at some point because I really like this movie in particular. Um, maybe I just haven't read much Stephen King books because again I'm not really the biggest fan of his writing, but I'm really excited to read that one because it's not only a short story, but I think that there's a lot more to glean from the book that you can also get out of the movie. Um, because one of the things that like Mike Flanagan says in the interviews is watch the movie cold, don't look at anything about it, and then immediately after read the book. So that's what I'm planning on doing. I probably should have read it in preparation with the podcast, but whatever. I think that also this is probably, despite there being a different director, I mean cinematographer this time, it probably is his best looking movie. Um, in my opinion, other than what was the Shining sequel again? I keep on
Doctor
forgetting the
Sleep.
name.
In terms of
Yeah,
movies, it
it's
probably is. I really like the way Doctor Sleep looks.
Doctor
And
Sleep looks amazing.
yeah,
That's why
and
I'm like,
I
I don't know.
I love Hush in black and white as well. The black and
Oh
white
yeah.
version of Hush is just whew, beautiful. What,
Oh yeah, it
let me
definitely should have
see.
been in black and white
His other movies, what?
because
There's Oculus there, which is fine. I don't think there's anything too
Oculus is fine.
particularly
It's
crazy visually in that movie.
there's
Oculus,
there's some neat shots from Oculus.
Ouija.
Ouija was pretty well shot. I
Yeah,
remember
I mean, I
that.
think all of them are well shot. That's the interesting thing. They're all
Oh
shot
yeah.
by Michael Famignari, except for Life of Chuck. But Life of Chuck was another DP. I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna look it up right now. But
Do you think that the cinematographer was just busy, or
I mean,
he's probably
probably.
just busy working on another project?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because
I mean, Michael
so
Famignari has
it's
like directed some of Mike Flanagan's stuff as well.
yeah. I
Photography
mean, of course, I don't think the
is
cinematography is based on one person.
Eben Bolter. Let's see what else
Oh yeah.
he's done. He's done 3 episodes of The Last of Us. He did 3 episodes of the franchise.
We
Interesting.
really.
Yeah.
That's in. Wait, what's his name again? Mike
Eben Bolter.
Evan Evan Bolter. Yeah. What episodes of The Last of Us is he done? Because that's very interesting.
Yeah, he's
Because
done
either
quite a
he's
few like
done.
small things, but yeah. The Last of Us was episode 3, which
Oh.
was the best episode of the show. Don't at me. Episode
Oh
4
yeah,
and episode
definitely.
5 of season 1.
Yeah, episode 3 and episode 6 of season 2 are probably the best ones in the entire show. Um,
Uh,
because they actually feel like normal episodes of television. Um,
right.
the rest is just like a really bad adaptation of the games. I mean, not a bad adaptation of the game. Well, season 2 is season 1's just like a fine adaptation of the games. It doesn't do anything amazing with, you know, the adaptation is literally just like copy and pasting
Mm,
uh the game into a TV format, whereas episode 3 actually does something transformative with it and changes the experience while also, while also continuing the story of The Last of Us. Anyway, enough about The Last of Us, but I do think I'm really glad that this movie looks the way it does, because it honestly looks so beautiful, and that's kind of plays hand in hand with the hopefulness of this movie.
yeah.
Um,
It does
like
feel like
some
to have
shots
like
just
some
I,
ethereal like quality to it of just like
oh yeah, it feels otherworldly.
yeah.
Um, I'm not gonna compare it to Twin Peaks. Well, I will compare it to Twin Peaks, even though I think the vibes and the cinematography are different. But it does give that similar feel of Twin Peaks, that like despite some scenes feeling quite normal, it still feels like it takes place in a world other than its own, which it kind of does because it takes place in his mind, and
Mm.
his mind is in a way another universe. That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah, it kind of
But
feels like an
I
animated movie at points, like Soul or something,
oh yeah,
like that has a like ethereal like I don't know how to describe it. The
yeah,
shininess, the
or
stars and everything. I don't know.
what's the other one? Anomalisa, I think, is the another movie. Um,
Yeah.
that's very like kind of deals with similar themes. I think Anomalisa is more of grief and loss. I do not remember. I've not seen Anomalisa in so long. Um, but yeah, it is very similar to like anime, especially the final shot of Act One. I'm talking about Act One, not Act Three. It's again, it's really confusing. But because it's structured so weirdly. But the final scene of Act One, where they're looking at the stars and the planets are all going out, slowly disappearing,
Yeah.
and it cuts away
That scene
for
is beautiful, but it is fucking haunting as well. Like just
oh
seeing like the
yeah,
world that ended the boom boom every time like a star
mm,
like disappears. It is like terrifying, and I love that they cut it short as well, where they were just like, I love, and then it cuts off. The world ends like fuck. Um,
oh
I
yeah,
did mean to mention Black Fimignari is being DP of the Carrie TV show that Mike Flanagan's making.
oh okay.
So yeah, they are working together. I don't know exactly why they didn't work together on Life of Chuck. He seems to be working to be directing two projects as well, so that's probably
Maybe
why.
yeah, maybe he's just busy with like other Mike Flanagan projects he's doing, so he didn't have the time to direct to I mean shoot this one, which would make sense because Mike Flanagan is like a fucking madman. Like you would mistake him for actually being on fucking drugs because of the amount of shit he gets done. He, even though he's like a completely sober guy, but the guy
Yeah, he's been sober
acts
for
like
many years, which is very cool. The way he talks about it, especially in Midnight Mass, very
he's very
interesting.
open about it,
Yeah.
and I think it makes for a more personal experience between the viewer and the storyteller, because he's a very open guy about his sobriety. And I mean, Midnight Mass is literally his story of his personal story put onto screen,
Yeah.
which I find to be such a beautiful
Though
experience, which
Mike
is why
Flanagan does not know any vampires in real life, I have to say. It is his
yeah,
personal story, but I think the vampire part was made up. I think. Maybe. Probably.
I don't. Yeah, maybe he met a hot priest that like like that sucked his blood and then killed him. But I think that's all just conjecture for now.
Yeah.
We'll have
I
to.
we can't prove it. But like
Yeah, we
I
can't.
don't know. I have my suspicions.
Yeah, we can't confirm nor deny this information, so we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, it is his most personal story, which is why it is probably his best
Yeah.
work, other than, Bly Manor, and Usher is also really good as well. I I talk about two other different projects being like, oh yeah, that's also his best as well. Like, he doesn't make like some of the best stuff in the industry at the moment. And yeah, it's really weird because he's making the Carrie TV show. He's making he was producing Shelby Oaks, which would be an interesting one to cover on the podcast at some point.
Oh, whenever it's out,
Uh,
I'm excited to talk about that. Very interested to see
I
what
think
Chris
it's very
Stuckman
interesting.
makes as a movie.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, the subject of YouTuber movies, because it was something that used to be clowned upon, and now it is just this thing that is, people just sometimes expect now for YouTube movies to be great, like Talk to Me, or there was another movie that they made that I keep forgetting
Bring
the
her
name
back.
of. Yeah, Bring Her Back. I haven't seen that one yet. I've
Me
seen Talk to
neither.
Me, and that one's
It's
very
not
good.
come to theaters here yet. I've heard people say it's good
Really,
though. Yeah. Fucking
I
Brazil
missed
is
my chance
always
to see
like
it.
fucking slow with movie releases other than the worldwide ones. I remember, man,
Yeah, well,
fucking The Lighthouse took like 6 months to get here. Oh, sucked. I was looking
sometimes New
forward
Zealand's
so
weird.
much to watch it in theaters, and then I just ended up like watching the digital version. Like,
Yeah, I mean, New Zealand is sometimes the same. Either we get movies very early or we get them very late. It really depends on where they advertise it. Like, sometimes we get Marvel movies early, which is very weird. But
well,
sometimes we also get
most
like,
countries actually usually get Marvel movies like a day or two or earlier than America for some reason. I don't know why.
I think it's
Like
really funny.
Brazil does, like England does. I know, so it's weird. It's part of why
From
everyone saw Superman before its release day. Like everyone on Twitter was talking about it. It was like, wait, but the movie doesn't come out until
I
tomorrow, and everyone was talking about it. It was great.
I think it's funny because I actually kind of like the fact that it came out before America, because you get there seems to be a trend with Americans on fucking spoiling the movies that they see on Twitter, because beforehand, like, you did not see any um Superman, like, spoilers. But when it came out immediately, like almost immediately, the film, the movie, was spoiled, because I don't know what it is. Americans just love spoiling shit. Um, yeah, I have no idea why. I guess it's just a thing they like.
It's just an American
But
thing.
it is just an American thing to be like, yo, I spoiled your movie. Uh, yo, did you know that this thing happened in the movie? But I mean, I am, so that's one thing I am kind of glad about, even if it doesn't really make any sense. I guess it is just a way of testing how it does in other countries before they release it in theater. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense to me. I'm not. I'm not gonna act like I know how it works. But anyway, back to Chuck. Yeah, I honestly think that Michael Flanagan should direct like just a musical in general, because
Yeah.
that
After that
entire
act two,
second
it's
act.
just like, okay, this guy gets musicals. He gets what makes musicals work.
Oh yeah, like he knows how to make a good musical. He knows how to make. How do I describe it? He's basically, he should just make the La La Land sequel, basically.
The La La
If there
Land
ever was to be.
sequel.
Well, you know how there's the Social Network 2 coming out? Yeah, he should, like, why fucking not? Let's do it. La La Land 2. Get it done, Mike Flanagan. You know what to do. He's just fucking. In fact, he should just make Drive 2 while he's at it.
Drive
That,
2.
yeah,
Just making sequels to good fucking Ryan Gosling movies. Blade
yeah,
Runner
exactly. Like,
2050.
oh, well, I mean, that one I would actually be down for. A Mike Flanagan Blade
Blade
Runner movie.
Runner? I don't know
That's
if the
fucking
scope
weird.
of that would be up his wheelhouse, but maybe. Who knows?
Mike Flanagan can basically do anything. I don't think I've seen the man fumble once. A horror Blade Runner movie? That's fucked.
Yeah, to be fair, I would love to watch that.
I mean, there is like a new Blade Runner thing coming out soon, but I
Yeah.
have no idea.
It
I think it's like
looks
a
interesting.
show.
I everything I've heard about it is interesting, but it fucking stars Jared Leto, doesn't it?
Well, I think it stars Hunter Schafer as well.
Yeah, it's
Um,
what's it called? Blade Runner 2099, is that it?
yeah, something like that. Some real the names are getting too confusing for me. I mean, we are planning on watching, like
Oh, I may have gotten
going
it
over Blade
confused
Runner.
with Tron, the new Tron that has Jared Leto.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Because yeah, Blade Runner 2099 does have Hunter Schafer, Tom Burke, Michelle Yeoh. Stacked cast, honestly. Seems fun.
oh
What
yeah,
is it gonna be?
seems like
Takes okay,
um
it doesn't actually have anything describing. It's gonna be a TV show. Okay. Okay.
yeah, I think that's interesting. I just hope that they get the visual style of Blade Runner
Mm.
right because it's very hard to replicate that style. Um, because the first Blade Runner movie is kind of like the most probably one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree with that.
and that's kind of the point because it is meant to be a very visual experience. Um, but we keep on getting off the topic. As much as I'd like to talk about Blade Runner, that is a subject for next week since I am seeing it on Friday in theaters.
Yeah.
Literally just a spur of the moment thing because I was like, oh, we should just cover Blade Runner for next week because I'm just, my theater's randomly playing it now. Um, but yeah, what else shall we talk about in this movie? I think
I think we've
I'm
talked
trying.
plenty. I don't know if there's like anything more specific to cover. It
Yeah,
is
we would
just a
talk more
wonder.
about this movie, but
Yeah, I mean there is more to
yeah.
say, and I do hope I cover some of that in my video coming out in a few weeks. Hopefully, yes. Please say thank you. But I don't know if there's anything like in particular I want to mention. It is just a really, really well made movie. It tells a very interesting story. I'm very, very, very interested to read the short story by Stephen King before I get my video done, just because I'm curious just what like the differences are and how Mike made it his own, because Mike has this tendency of like adapting books and everything and not being extremely faithful to like the material but being faithful to the tone, which is something I realized with Haunting of Hill House, which is a book I started reading recently. But the big thing is that The Haunting of Hill House, the movie from 1963, The Haunting, is like a very faithful adaptation, and I watched that recently. And the Mike Flanagan show is very different and very like much more, a lot more horror than that 63 movie. And I think it does a lot with like super interesting things, and I think it keeps the theme of the story alive, but I don't think it is a good adaptation in terms of like seeing the characters you like being adapted, because like just for one, in the book none of them are related, but in the show they're all siblings, so there's a very different thing. The house is just like this inheritance and everything, and in the book they're just like investigating the house because they want to like scientifically prove that there are ghosts and everything. It's very different, very unique story for
Oh
both,
yeah.
but I think he gets the vibe of what he's adapting really well. So I'm
Oh yeah.
interested to see the differences between this and the short story of Life of Chuck. And I
Yeah.
just really, really want Mike Flanagan to do more stuff like this that isn't like, because I love his horror stuff and I think he is the best horror filmmaker currently, like hands down.
Oh yeah.
But I wouldn't. But his style is like I remember when we were watching Bly Manor. And it's so funny that you said that because it was just like biting my tongue, because you said it during episode 2, and it's actually a line in the finale, where Flora tells you know uh, where a character says this is that wasn't a ghost story, that was a love story. And you said during episode 2, oh yeah, this is a horror story, this is a love story. And I was like, oh, you get it. So it's like Mike Flanagan, I think sometimes his horror isn't really horror. It is just like it's talking about generational trauma and using ghosts and everything like the vehicles of what would constitute horror, but doing it in a more like just like suspense and like introspective way rather than just being like jump scares and everything. Like his stuff has very few jump scares, even though I think Midnight Mass is actually really scary at some points. Like episode 6 is fucking terrifying. Point
Oh
being,
yeah, absolutely.
I love Life of Chuck, and I think if he wants to do less horror stuff and more just like introspective like character studies like this, I would absolutely be down. I kind of love it, because I
Oh
think he
yeah.
has the mind for it. So yeah.
That's kind of why I think he could do an interesting Blade Runner movie if he wanted to, because the entire movie, the entire series is about what it means to be human.
Hmm.
Um, like the first movie, especially, and especially the second movie. So if he wants to do something introspective, he absolutely could. It's just I don't know, like if he ever would. Yeah, I don't mind Mike Flanagan if he wants to do a genre change. In fact, this is like probably his most non-horror thing. He
Yeah.
does want to. It does seem like he sneaks in a bit of horror aspects every so often in that movie. Um, but it's not for long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's very short-lived. Actually, like I think in total you could probably count like 2 minutes of horror that occurs out of like I don't know the 2 hour movie. No, it's like an hour and a half, isn't it? Yeah, the hour and a half movie. So again, not
It's
that
two
much, but
hours,
he
I think.
does.
1 hour 55.
I. Oh yeah. So I'm thinking of like fucking War of the Worlds because runtime
Yeah,
because I
that
saw
movie is very
that
short.
recently.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God, thank God that movie's fucking short. But yeah, yeah, there's not much horror to gain from it, and I kind of like it in a way because it makes for a very unique experience. I mean, all of his projects are very unique, but especially with this one, especially since there's no horror, but well, basically no horror in it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, this will be quite a short coverage because, like, it's a very short story. There's not. It's also very straightforward. It's
Yeah.
the entire like you said before, the entire film is basically laid out when Kate Siegel basically is just like you contain multitudes, Chuck. Um, so there is there isn't too much more to dissect other than what we just covered, except for like like you said, some other things, but like at this point it's just semantics. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll end the stream there unless there's one last thing you want to cover
Mm,
or anything else.
no, I think we're good.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this coverage of Life is Chuck. I do have a video coming out in an hour. If you'll want to see that, it is on the Bear, which you may have seen last week because it was up for a total of 30 minutes before it got taken down by YouTube.
Let's hope it
Our
doesn't
next
happen
coverage.
today. Let's hope that one stays up.
I'm honestly hoping like the YouTube seems to hate me in terms of copyright because it happened to my Invincible video and it happened to my Arcane video. I gave up trying to save that Arcane video. Like Netflix was literally like, "Yo, if you don't remove the video, we're gonna like copyright strike your channel." I'm like, "Okay, I'm removing it. Sorry." Um, but I mean I think it will be fine because the other test ones I've made have been up for like the past few days now and they're fine. So it should be fine. Next week we'll be covering Blade Runner and 2049. Since it's best to just cover them as a package because they kind of go hand in hand. Since the first movie is coming out to me in theaters, and I thought it would just be a cute thing to cover, especially since both movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. So be sure to tune into that, and I shall see you all in the next video. Check out Sky's channel for the Life of Chuck video. And yeah, is there anything you want to add on? Anything you want to promote before we end?
If you care about the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I have an episode of my podcast coming out in 2 days. In my other podcast coming out in 2 days, where we talk
Oh
about the
yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man. So there's that. Keep an eye out for that. I assume some people might be interested because your channel covers some cringe mainstream comic book stuff, while mine covers niche, super indie stuff like Superman.
Oh yeah. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Bye bye,
Bye
everyone.
bye.